It's the morning of June 12, 1962, on Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay. 7 a.m. roll call. 3 prisoners don't respond. A guard walks down the cell block to check on them. Frank Morris, John Anglin, Clarence Anglin. All 3 are lying in their beds, motionless. The guard steps into Frank Morris's cell and taps him on the head with his nightstick. The head falls off and rolls across the concrete floor. It's papier-mâché, a dummy. All 3 cells are empty. The prisoners are gone. In 2026, we're still searching for answers. No bodies were ever found. No arrests were ever made. 3 men vanished from the most secure prison in America and were never seen again. This is the story of the only successful escape from Alcatraz and the greatest mystery of the 20th century. Alcatraz sits on a rock in the middle of San Francisco Bay, 1.25 miles from shore. It opened as a federal penitentiary in 1934 and quickly earned a reputation as the end of the line for America's most dangerous criminals. Al Capone served time here, Machine Gun Kelly, Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. If you were sent to Alcatraz, it meant every other prison had failed to hold you. The security was designed to be absolute. 6 watchtowers manned around the clock, a 20-foot fence topped with barbed wire surrounding the entire perimeter, metal detectors at every checkpoint, guards conducting hourly cell checks throughout the night. And if by some miracle you made it past all of that, you still faced the dark, freezing waters of the San Francisco Bay with currents so strong they could pull a grown man under in seconds. In the 28 years Alcatraz operated as a federal prison, 36 men attempted to escape. 23 were caught, 6 were shot and killed, 2 drowned. 5 were never found and presumed dead. The official record was clear. No one ever escaped Alcatraz alive. Frank Morris arrived at Alcatraz in January 1960. He was 34 years old and had been in and out of the prison system since age 13, mostly for armed robbery. But what made Morris special was his talent for escape. He'd successfully broken out of facilities in Louisiana, Georgia, and Florida. Some guards called him the Houdini of the prison system. His IQ was tested at 133. When traditional prisons couldn't hold him, the federal government sent him to the Rock. The Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, came to Alcatraz in 1961. They were bank robbers from Florida who'd made the mistake of trying to escape from Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary in Kansas. Like Morris, they were career criminals with a history of successful escapes. They'd been bouncing in and out of institutions their whole lives. A 4th man would join the plot. Alan West was a car thief from New York serving his 2nd stint at Alcatraz. West worked maintenance detail, which gave him access to tools and materials other prisoners couldn't get. According to what he'd later tell investigators, West was the mastermind who brought the others together and conceived the plan. Whether that's true, or whether West was simply trying to take credit for one of the most audacious escapes in history, we'll never know for certain. The cells in Alcatraz measured 5 feet by 9 feet. Concrete walls, steel bars, a cot, a sink, a toilet. And beneath the sink, a small air vent about 6 inches by 9 inches that led to a maintenance corridor behind the cell block. The vents had been there since the building's construction and were never considered a security risk. They were too small for a man to fit through. But the salt water of San Francisco Bay wreaks havoc on concrete. By 1962, the concrete around those vents had begun to deteriorate. West noticed this during his maintenance work. He realized that with enough time and patience, a man could scrape away the concrete and widen the vent enough to squeeze through. West stole spoons from the cafeteria and sharpened them into crude chisels. He showed Morris and the Anglins how to chip away at the concrete around their vents, working silently during the night while other prisoners slept. The guards conducted hourly checks, shining flashlights into each cell, so the work had to be done in complete silence, and the evidence had to be hidden immediately after each session. West secured green paint from his prison job and showed the others how to repaint around the vent after each work session, making it look undisturbed. Later, they began fashioning fake vent covers out of papier-mâché and cardboard that could be propped in place. From 9 feet away, the distance a guard would be standing during a cell check, the fake vents looked identical to the real ones. It took months of work, scraping away concrete grain by grain. But eventually Morris and the Anglins widened their vents enough to fit through. One night, they squeezed into the maintenance corridor for the first time and climbed the pipes to the top of the cell block. West had identified a ventilation shaft on the roof that could serve as their exit point. But when they reached it, they discovered a problem. The vent was secured with a large bolt that would take weeks to file down. The men needed time out of their cells every night to work on that bolt without the guards noticing they were gone. So they designed dummy heads to leave in their beds during the nightly checks. The heads were made from papier-mâché, soap, concrete powder, and toilet paper, molded to look like sleeping faces. Clarence Anglin worked in the prison barber shop and stole human hair clippings, which he glued to the heads with toothpaste. They painted the faces with flesh-colored paint stolen from the art supplies. The dummy heads were crude, but they didn't need to be perfect. They just needed to fool a guard shining a flashlight from 9 feet away for 5 seconds during an hourly check. And they worked. Night after night, Morris and the Anglins placed the heads on their pillows, squeezed through their widened vents, and climbed to the roof to file away at the bolt. But getting out of the building was only half the problem. They still had to cross the San Francisco Bay. Swimming was suicide. The water temperature averaged 50 degrees, and the currents were notorious for drowning even experienced swimmers. They needed a raft. Using a popular mechanics magazine they'd found, the men figured out how to stitch together more than 50 prison-issue raincoats into a makeshift inflatable raft and life preservers. They used heat from the steam pipes to vulcanize and waterproof the seams. They fashioned paddles from scrap wood and plywood found around the prison. They stole a concertina, a small accordion, from the music room and planned to use it as a bellows to inflate the raft. Their escape route was planned with precision. Instead of heading 1.25 miles south to San Francisco, where they'd be easily spotted in their prison clothes, they'd paddle 2 miles north to Angel Island. The island housed a Nike missile base that was being decommissioned in 1962. There would be few people there, possibly abandoned boats they could steal. And from Angel Island, it was only a quarter mile to the Marin County shore. Once on the mainland, they'd steal a car and disappear. By early June 1962, everything was ready. The vents were wide enough. The bolt on the roof vent was nearly filed through. The raft was complete. The dummy heads were perfected. They picked the night of June 11th to go. If you want to support more deep investigations into history's greatest mysteries, please subscribe. It takes weeks of research to reconstruct these forgotten stories with accuracy and detail. Sometime around 9:30 p.m. on June 11th, 1962, Frank Morris placed his papier-mâché head on his pillow, arranged the blankets to look like a sleeping body, and squeezed through the widened vent in his cell. John and Clarence Anglin did the same. They met in the maintenance corridor behind the cell block. Alan West tried to follow, but he had a problem. His vent wasn't quite wide enough. He'd fallen behind on the work and now couldn't fit through the hole. He scraped frantically at the concrete, trying to widen it, but it was too late. Morris and the Anglins couldn't wait. If they missed the tidal currents, they'd never make it to Angel Island. They climbed the pipes without West and disappeared into the darkness above. West would spend the rest of the night trying to force himself through that vent. By the time he finally made it into the corridor hours later, the others were long gone. He climbed to the roof and found the ventilation shaft open, the bolt completely removed. He was alone. The escape had happened without him. West climbed back down, returned to his cell, replaced the fake vent cover, and went to sleep. When the guards discovered the escape the next morning, West would be the only one left to tell the story. Morris and the Anglins reached the roof sometime around 10 p.m. They used the paddles to pry open the ventilation shaft where they'd filed down the bolt. The shaft opened onto the roof of the cell block. From there, they climbed down the outside of the building using pipes and drainage gutters, dropped over the fence, and made their way to the northeast shore of the island. They inflated the raft using the concertina bellows. The raft was approximately 6 feet by 14 feet, crude but functional. They launched into the water sometime around 10:30 p.m. The tide was going out, which would help carry them north toward Angel Island. The water was 53 degrees. Fog covered the bay. The watchtowers couldn't see them in the darkness. And then they were gone. Into the black water. Into the fog. Into history. At 7 a.m. on June 12th, when the guard's nightstick knocked Frank Morris's papier-mâché head onto the floor, Alcatraz erupted into chaos. Alarms sounded. Every prisoner was locked down. The warden called the FBI. Within hours, the story was on every radio station and newspaper in America. 3 men had escaped from Alcatraz. The first question everyone asked was, how? The second question was, did they survive? The FBI launched one of the largest manhunts in its history. Coast Guard boats scoured the waters around Alcatraz and Angel Island. Helicopters searched from above. Divers went underwater looking for bodies. Police across California were put on alert. Alan West became the investigators' primary source. With his papier-mâché head and fake vent as evidence, West had no choice but to cooperate. In exchange for leniency, he told them everything. The months of scraping concrete, the dummy heads, the raincoat raft, the planned route to Angel Island and then Marin County. He described how they'd plans to steal a car once they reached the mainland. A few days after the escape, searchers found crucial evidence floating in the water near Angel Island. A sealed packet made from the rubber raincoats containing family photographs belonging to the Anglin brothers. A makeshift wooden paddle matching West's description. Pieces of the raft. The items suggested the men had at least made it as far as Angel Island before something went wrong. But no bodies were ever found. The official FBI position was that the men had drowned in the bay. The water was too cold. The currents were too strong. No one could have survived. But without bodies, there was no proof. The case remained open for 17 years. Then, on December 31st, 1979, the FBI officially closed the file and handed it over to the U.S. Marshals. The conclusion? Frank Morris and John and Clarence Anglin were presumed dead. But in 2003, a U.S. Marshal named Michael Dyke decided to take another look at the case. Dyke went back through the original police reports from Marin County and found something the FBI had missed. On the night of June 11, 1962, a 1955 blue Chevrolet was reported stolen in Marin County. The eyewitness who reported it said there were 3 men inside the vehicle. At the time, that report didn't mean anything because news of the escape hadn't been made public yet. But Dyke found another report from just a few hours later. In Stockton, California, almost 100 miles east of Marin County, a driver reported being forced off the road by a blue Chevrolet driven by 3 men. If those reports are accurate, it means Morris and the Anglins made it to Angel Island, paddled a quarter mile to Marin County, stole a car exactly as planned, and drove east toward the Sierra Nevada mountains. It means they survived. It means they escaped. If this kind of deep mystery investigation interests you, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm show these stories to others who love unsolved cases told with depth and research. In 2026, 64 years after the escape, the case remains officially unsolved. The U.S. Marshals still maintain an active investigation. If Morris and the Anglins survived, they would be 98, 94, and 93 years old today. Most likely they're dead now, whether they died in the bay in 1962 or lived free lives under assumed names for decades. Over the years, alleged sightings have been reported. A family member of the Anglins claimed to have received a Christmas card from the brothers in 1962. In 2015, the History Channel aired a photograph allegedly showing John and Clarence Anglin in Brazil in 1975. The photograph was analyzed by forensic experts who said the facial structures were consistent with the Anglin brothers. But the evidence remains inconclusive. Alan West, the man who couldn't squeeze through his vent in time, was never charged with the escape attempt. He was released from Alcatraz when the prison closed in 1963 and sent to other facilities. He died in 1978 in Florida, taking whatever additional secrets he knew to his grave. Whether he truly masterminded the plan or whether he was simply the one left behind to tell the story, we'll never know. Alcatraz closed as a federal penitentiary on March 21, 1963, less than a year after the escape. The facility was too expensive to maintain, and the salt water had deteriorated the buildings beyond repair. It's now a tourist attraction where visitors can walk through the empty cells and see the dummy heads on display in the prison museum. The vent holes have been preserved exactly as Morris and the Anglins left them. The escape has become legend. Books have been written. A Clint Eastwood film was made in 1979. The story endures because it represents something fundamental to human nature: the desire for freedom and the triumph of ingenuity over impossible odds. These were career criminals, men who'd spent most of their lives behind bars, but they used their intelligence and resourcefulness to achieve what everyone said couldn't be done. No bodies have ever been produced. No evidence of their death has ever been confirmed. The official position remains that they drowned, but that position rests on assumption, not proof. The evidence that exists, the stolen car, the sightings, the survival skills all three men possessed, suggests another possibility: that they made it, that they won. It's still one of the great mysteries of the 20th century, and everybody loves it because they love when the underdog wins. Because somewhere in all of us, there's a part that wants to believe that three men outsmarted the system, beat the impossible odds, and disappeared into freedom. Maybe they died in the cold water of the San Francisco Bay. Or maybe, somewhere out there, Frank Morris and John and Clarence Anglin lived long lives as free men, laughing at the headlines that said they couldn't possibly survive. We'll probably never know for certain. And maybe that's exactly how they wanted it. What unsolved mystery should we investigate next? Let us know in the comments. And, as always, we'll see you in the past.